Magic has returned to the old world, but it's not like it once was. Rogue Trader is out this week, and JoyToy can't help themselves but continue to make really awesome looking action figures. All this and more in this week's Hobby News. My name's Angela, and welcome to Hobby Night.
Up first, I want to talk about one of my favorite systems from Games Workshop, Blood Bowl! It is my all-time favorite game from them, and we are finally getting the return of Cheerleaders, baby! I am so hyped for this. Now, we have a limited number of cheerleader options that will be available for a limited period of time, print on demand only. But we do have some humans to take a look at, and I think they're fine, honestly. They're the most, I guess, generic, I would say, of them. But look at these orc cheerleaders. First of all, I didn't know that there were lady orcs out there, so in my head, these are just male orcs that are pretending to have boobs. I don't know why, I don't know if in Old World there were female orcs, but I feel like I never really saw them much. So that's my go-to for this. It's just that it's a bunch of dudes in drag having a good time, cheering on their team. Then we have the Chaos team, which is the spicy team that I'm super into. Love the look of them. Of all of them, the Orc and I think this team are the two teams that I really want to get my hands on and might try to end up ordering from Games Workshop's new website, because I really just think they'd be fun to paint up, and I'd give them all purple skin and purple hair. It'd be great. It would just make it very thematic. It would be wonderful. And then finally, we have, of course, the Dark Elf cheerleaders, which also look majestic, and they're already in the purple color scheme that I love. I do also just love that they have blood. I think she's just got, I don't even know what that is in her hand, but it's some sort of gore. This woman has a full head that she's apparently just maybe ripped off one of the opposing teams. Who knows? But they are very aggressive. Now, it's not just cheerleaders that we're getting, though. We are getting some refs, and I think these refs are both, frankly, adorable. We have a halfling with a gigantic sandwich, as well as a goblin who appears to have been bribed, which is just fantastic. And again, these are all print on demand and are going to be around for only a very limited time, including this Minotaur guy, which I just thought was very cool. I don't really know what his deal is specifically, but he does seem to have some updated rules, so make sure to check that out. And if you are interested in when these miniatures might be available, all of that information is right here at the bottom of the article. We are going to be able to have them starting around Saturday, December 23rd, until the 2nd of January. So a relatively small window, only about 2 weeks or so. So if you want to get your hands on any of these beautiful, beautiful Blood Bowl miniatures, that is the time period to get your hands on them. Now, if you're interested and you're like, hey, what about the rest of the cheerleaders? Don't worry. It is implied in this article that Games Workshop is planning to announce some other cheerleaders that will become available also seemingly for a limited period of time. And those include the Elven cheerleaders, which I'm very excited to see, because I imagine they're going to be in stark contrast to not only the Dark Elves, but also probably the Chaos. I just imagine them very ethereal and maybe more flowy with some of their costumes and such. But I don't expect them to just release one random made-to-order set at a time when it comes to this particular franchise. So I'm curious if we're going to get other cheerleaders, and my hope is we'll get a brand new one. Something that is specific to the Necromantic Horrors, because that's a new team that only released relatively recently, and I don't think they have any cheerleader options. And we also had that new vampire team announced recently, and that would be also very cool to see cheerleaders for. So Games Workshop, please make more and make those specific teams for me. That'd be great. Thanks. Magic has returned to the old world, but it's not like it used to be. No longer are you rolling dice, putting those into a pool that you can then draw from and use to cast your spells. Instead, Games Workshop has decided to have the magic phase not actually be a phase. It's going to function exactly like the psychic phase does in Warhammer 40k, in which you cast your psychic abilities in the relevant phases where they would be appropriate. And the same thing is going to be true of the magic spells in the new Old World edition. And I personally don't have a big problem with this. I do think it speeds up the game a little bit, but I am curious how older fans of the system are going to feel about this relatively major change. But let's go ahead and actually talk about how the magic phase specifically works, because there are still some things that you'll remember from the old world, and I do, like I said, like the lore that they've built up around this. Now, obviously, when we're in the old world campaign, it's going to be a different time period. It is set in a time where the colleges have not actually yet been formed. But that doesn't mean there aren't lores of magic out there for magic users to draw from. In fact, there are 8 specific lores. They are the battle magic, dark magic, demonology, which I don't really think is a magic, more of like a study of creatures, but it's fine, whatever. We also have elementalism, high magic, illusion, necromancy, and of course, Wah magic, because you can't not have some Wah magic in there. And each of these 8 lores is going to contain 7 specific spells, one which is going to be unique to it and always available for the user to be able to access, which I do think is pretty cool. Now, amongst these spells, there are 6 different types that they may fall under. You can see those here. They fall into enchantment, hex, conveyance, magic missile, magic vortex, and assailment. Now, these all are going to function in specific phases. For the enchantment and hex phases, for the enchantment and hex spells, those are going to occur in the strategy phase. For the convoyance, those are going to occur in the movement phase. For the magic missile and magic vortex, those, you might believe, happen in the ballistics phase as well, or the shooting phase, I suppose. And then finally, the assailment happens in the combat phase. These all, I think, are pretty logical, make a lot of sense, and do sort of help you figure out when and where you might want to use some of these various spells. Hopefully, it'll make it easy to remember, because that is one of the things that I do think adds a little bit level of complexity to this new system. But regardless, you're going to want to know probably, how do you actually cast a spell if we're not rolling a pool of dice anymore? Well, it functions, like I said, a lot like Warhammer 40k's psychic abilities. You're going to roll 2d6, and you're going to apply your magic user's level to that as a bonus. That will range from 1 to 4, and that also determines how many spells they may start with when you go into the game. So the higher the level, the more spells they'll start with. Once you have rolled, your opponent does have the option to dispel the magic, but of course, you want to make sure that you're not rolling double ones, both you and your opponent, whether you're dispelling or casting magic. Because if you roll double ones, then you get to roll on the miscast table. This is something that I do really, really like from the old world, and I'm glad that they brought it back in. Having this table, adding that level of just spontaneity, and you don't really get to control what's happening, I think is really, really fun. And I think it's great that both the opponent who is trying to dispel, as well as the person who's actually just casting the magic, both have the opportunity to have Nuffle just go, no, and roll double ones and then have to roll on this table. It's fantastic. I can't wait to get my hands on the game, start trying out all these different phases, playing everything, painting up those absolutely beautiful miniatures. But do let me know, are you a fan of this new system? Because it's definitely very different. It is definitely falling in line with what we're seeing from 40k. And I don't know if that's going to necessarily be a big deal for people or if they're going to be pretty upset by it. So let's talk about it down in the comments.
Hey guys, just jumping into the video to remind you to hit that subscribe button and bell icon for notifications so you never miss future content on the channel. And if you're into the spicier side of the hobby, you can find a link to my Only Fanatics down in the link tree below in the description. Now, let's go ahead and get back to the video.
Next up, I want to look at the new trailer for an update that's coming to Darktide. I'm curious what Fat Shark has for us now. It's great music still. All right, there's definitely looking like some new weapons. Possibly some new enemies.
Morningstar, this is Wormwood. Please respond. I'm being followed and do not have much time. Morningstar, be advised. The Obian presence in the carnival goes deeper than we first believed.
Oh no.
It is not enough to interrupt their distribution network. You must destroy the stim production at its source.
Okay.
But our efforts have not gone unnoticed. I'm hearing rumors that Wolfer has let the Karnak twins off their leash.
Ooh, who are the Karnak twins?
Cutting comms before it is too late. Pray for me.
All right, so we do definitely have a new enemy. And these look like new environments. I don't remember them from when I played. Oh, big boy. Yes, tell me about your highlights. What specifically are you changing?
Part 2 of the Traitor Curse tasks strike teams with a new mission.
Okay.
To explore the Carnival's back alleys in order to locate and destroy the Mobian production facilities.
Okay, so they are
This
actually
update
advancing the
also
plot.
introduces a new combat encounter. The Karnak twins have been sighted across Tertium and are ambushing
Can we see them?
strike teams. Be on guard.
Ah, there they are.
To help meet this challenge,
they're
operatives
big
will
boys.
now have access to additional tactical
Not like the
options
hugest
in the
boys,
form
but
of
they're still
skins
pretty chunky.
that can be looted from the field.
Okay, that's
We're
cool.
also adding new weapon marks to the game to allow players to enhance and diversify their playstyle.
Oh, I like that. I like the, like, pick shovel.
And remember, the Emperor protects.
The Emperor does indeed protect. Alright, this is interesting because it looks like we're getting new maps. So they're advancing the plot, which is nice to see because one of my big complaints about Darktide is that I felt like all of the videos leading up to the game's original release really led me to believe that there was going to be a bigger narrative that we were following, a la what you see in Vermintide. And when I got into it, I didn't actually feel like that was happening that much, which was a little bit of a shame, you know? Like, I kind of wanted to see that happening. I wanted to see an actual narrative happening that my character was having to end up being involved in, but that didn't occur. So it's nice to see them seemingly bringing that back. They've expanded what maps we're going to be going to, which is great. They seem to have expanded the mission types that you're going to be doing with different objectives. Also fantastic, because I do know that there was like a rotation problem where fans didn't always feel like they were really rotating through missions well or that kind of thing. And I completely agree with that. Like, there was some redundancy sometimes when I was playing Darktide. Now, granted, I have not played since the first update that we got earlier in, I think, November, and this one is scheduled to be out in December at some time. They haven't given us a date yet. But so we get the missions. It looks like we're getting some new weapons, which also might include some psychic abilities, because I don't remember this, like, such an extreme force lightning. Maybe they just updated how it looks, but that seems really cool. They keep focusing on this one gloved hand, and I don't know if this is for, like, a new armor type or something that you can get in the game, but I did think it was cool looking. And then additionally, the big thing is we're getting new enemies, which I want to see here. I think this is where we were sort of getting a look at the Karlak or Carmack twins. Oh, they do look scary. They do look pretty scary. They seem to me to be kind of like a like the demon host type enemy, where they're going to be sort of a little mini boss. But unlike the demon hosts, where you sort of have to wander into their field and activate them, it seems like these guys might be a bit more proactive and actually be hunting you as the player characters, which I do like. That I think is really fun, and I hope to see them do more things like that. So let me know, are you going to be playing this new update for Darktide? I know a lot of you have jumped back into the game or have gotten it for the first time since the last update they did. Does this entice you even further? Because it's looking pretty exciting to me so far. Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader is releasing this Thursday, December 7th from Owlcat Games, and I have been anticipating this game for quite a while. Chaos Cultist and I have been planning our campaign, or at least the fact that we want to do one and showcase it to you guys, and that will be happening this Friday after the game has come out, and I am super excited for it. But we have one final trailer to watch before that game comes out, and this is all about the combat. So without further ado, let's go ahead and watch a combat trailer for Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader.
In this video, we will introduce you to all the intricacies of combat
Okay.
in Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader.
I hope it involves me
41st
murdering a lot of
millennium,
people.
You can wage war from afar or get close and personal.
Makes sense.
For ranged combat, ballistic skill is the main characteristic.
I love that it just
But not
looks
the
like
only
the
one
old
used.
Rogue Trader RPG
And
system.
don't forget about cover. Use it to survive, and to deny your enemies such a luxury.
Use the covers
As
and
for your
kits.
firearms, be aware of their effective range.
Ah, also important.
Choose how you want to dispatch your enemies. Single shot or burst fire. Or purge them
Yes!
with fire and plasma using
Purge
your
them with
attack
fire!
arsenal. But mind the trigger finger. Friendly
Oh,
fire
shit.
is on.
All right, well, be
For
careful.
close combat, weapon skill and agility are the most important characteristics.
Makes sense.
By default, your melee attacks will always hit, but your enemies will also always try to parry or dodge. They will try either, depending on which chance is higher.
Rough,
And
but
don't
makes
forget
sense.
to bring your friends along for the ride. Together, you can overcome the deadliest of challenges.
Okay, that makes sense.
Close
Power
combat even
numbers.
allows you to disable dangerous sharpshooters. And if your enemies attempt to flee,
Attacks of
punish
opportunity,
them for
good.
it. But what about damage?
What about damage?
First of all, let's take a look at how armor works. Each piece of gear can protect you from damage.
Got it, okay.
But despite this, powerful weaponry can pierce through them.
Armor penetration is a bitch!
Especially if they crit. Every hit has a 10% chance to crit, dealing 150% damage.
Ooh, nice,
Both the
okay.
hit chance and damage of crits can be modified.
Nice.
And last but not least, your morale, which is represented by the momentum system. The morale of your party is not constant and will fluctuate over the course of battle.
Interesting.
This system allows you and your companions to make use of unique abilities.
I see. And it goes both ways,
And
which is
those
interesting.
are the basics.
That's cool. I like that the
Now
abilities
you
go.
are ready to crush your opponents. Or at the very
sick.
least, understand why you died trying.
I'll probably die a lot, let's be honest. All right, well, that is actually very exciting. Now, a lot of this, like everything here with the parry, the weapon skill, the D100 system that we're seeing over here, to me at least seems very familiar because I have played a small amount of the OG tabletop game from Fantasy Flight Games that is also called Rogue Trader that I believe this is very heavily based off of, if not directly based off of. But they clearly added some things in because, like, while they talked about, you know, ballistic skill and weapon skill and all of that, the morale system is interesting to me because all the armor, all that really makes sense. And I'm excited to, like, play around with the various types and see what's going to work best. But the fact that we're having this momentum system tied to morale, which then affects whether or not we can do various abilities, is new. I don't think they necessarily had anything like that in the OG game. Like, the closest thing that I can think of is potentially, like, when you would have to take like panic tests because you were failing like leadership type of thing. And this doesn't quite feel like the same thing. This actually almost feels derivative of what you see in Darkest Dungeon, where when your party's morale drops to a certain level, they start having negative effects happening to them, or possibly overcoming it and having then a very heroic effect that then affects everybody down the line. And while this doesn't seem one-to-one, that's like the first thing it reminded me of. So overall, I'm very excited to see stuff with this momentum system, with the morale system, with all the various different abilities that we're going to be able to do. And like I mentioned, this is going to be out on Thursday, December 7th. Let's get to there we go. Coming out December 7th, I think across all of the platforms. Let's see if I load it a little further. Yep, across all the platforms. So on PC, on PS5, on Xbox Series X and S. So if you have any of those and you've been looking for another deep, probably very large RPG game to dip your toes into, and you're done with D&D for right now, you're like, Baldur's Gate 3, you've been great, but I want something a bit more grimdark, then I would definitely check out Rogue Trader. You can check out our playthrough of that beginning, like I mentioned, this Friday, and I hope to see you there. Last but certainly not least, we have another toy announcement from JoyToy, this time for Cadia, because it stands. Let's check it out. Oh my god, that is beautiful. We actually are getting an armored Sentinel, and it comes with a dude. He's got a Sentinel crew, which is great. I love that they do this. Like, I unboxed a bunch of JoyToy action figures the other day. They were Warhammer 40k ones and included Gilliman. That's right, the Primarch Rabute Gilliman, and he is majestic. So if you want to see those, you can go watch that video after this episode is over. But I love these action figures. They do such a awesome job. The decals are great. They dry brush them and give them some fancy like options. And I just, oh my God, look at, nope, I paused it right as we were transitioning. I love the figure. Look at his beautiful face. They do really good face sculpts, actually. I really, really like them. Love all of the weathering that is on this figure to give him a little bit of that grimy I'm in war look without being overtly dirty. And then the Sentinel itself just looks stunning. Like, I love the color scheme, love everything about it. And if you want to watch me open even more JoyToy action figures, you should definitely join me later this afternoon, because I'm going to be unboxing some Infinity action figures. And I want to compare them to the ones that I have from Warhammer 40k and just see, are they putting as much love and care into those figures as they are the Warhammer ones? I suspect they are. I really, really like JoyToy's stuff. And if that's not obvious, it should be, because I talk about them all of the time. But this excites me. Really, everything that they've announced has excited me. And I look forward to seeing more from them, especially when it comes to that Horus Heresy stuff.
All right, that has been it for this week in hobby news. Do let me know, are you going to be playing Rogue Trader when it releases later this week? Because I know that I am. On Friday with the Chaos Cultist, a little co-op campaign will begin, and I am so excited. But if you want a stream today, you should check out later when I am going to be unboxing a whole slew of Infinity JoyToy action figures. They sent me a bunch of them. I'm super excited about this. I want to compare them to the details that we see in the 40k ones. So I hope you are looking forward to that. I'll see you later today. And before I head out, I just want to give a final thank you, not only to my patrons, but also to my YouTube members. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. We would not be doing this without you. I hope you guys all have a wonderful hobby night, and I'll see you next time.